You know, there are some things I just have never figured out how to finish. A book, a tube of chapstick, college. But there is one thing, and that's some blues in G. So today we're going to learn a little bit of a lick that is kind of like a finishing move, so to speak, in the key of G. But we're going to do this where you can move it around and do it in any key. So I'm going to play the lick first, and then we're going to do it in context and talk about why it's cool and why it's just really easy to do. And it sounds impressive. It's going to sound like this. Okay, so that's the lick by itself. In context, if we're doing like a blues in the key of G, the chords are going to be G7, C7, D7, right? So depending on how you play the blues is going to dictate the speed at which you use it. So here's like a G7, C7, D. That sounded super fast, but it actually was really, really simple. So we're going to talk about this real quick. One of the best things you can do to impress yourself and potentially others, aside from finishing a whole tube of chapstick, has anyone ever done that? Like gotten to the bottom? What even is at the bottom? How does that work? I've never even come close. I don't even know if I'm caught halfway. But the great thing about this is in the key of G, right? Like I said, all of this is going to be movable. So if we see our root note as the third fret, you can play them as bar chords. You can play them as like open chords. You don't even have to play them as dominant 7 chords. It doesn't even necessarily have to be the blues. But if this is our root note on the E string, stands to reason that the high E string is also a G. Just go 2 frets higher, and then this is where it's going to start. Okay, so we've got some kind of little twiddly hammer-on stuff that's going to end in what is really a slept-on version of a G major chord or any major chord for that instance, right? So let's talk about the chord first, and then let's go into it. So you probably know D major, right? But really, the best way to think about this shape is like, all right, wherever your ring finger is, whatever note that is, that's going to be that note's major chord. So the 8th fret on the B string is a G. So if we have this D major chord shape rooted on the 8th fret of the B string, you get a G major chord. G7, G, or G7, but we're ending it. So we want to resolve this little progression that we have going on here. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to take these into the end of this progression resolution. All right. So I'll break it down real quick, and then we'll just kind of talk about how we can move it around. So again, we're starting on that second note of the scale. That's going to be the first part of it, right? So we've got a hammer on and off. And then we go ring finger to the B string, 5, 7, 5, 7 on the B string. And they're going to go back to 5E, 7B, 5B. So that'll be the first half of it. And then your ring finger is just going to go to the same fret on the G string. Okay, so 7, 5, 7, 1 fret higher, chord. Okay, so it's really, really easy because it's really just 2 frets and then that chord. And especially that end, we're really just climbing up the scale and ending here. So we're going to talk a little bit more about where these positions come from, but first I want to tell you about the sponsor of this video. It's Skillshare. I have not really famously been a blues guy. I just kind of like faked my way through a lot of blues stuff, but Skillshare has this really cool platform where they have like hundreds and hundreds of blues guitar lessons and everything else you should ever want to do. So if you sign up with the link in the description, you get a free trial, and I also get a kickback on it just for signing up for the free trial, which is amazing, and I really need that. So please help me finish paying my rent by signing up for Skillshare, because you don't need it's not even just guitar stuff. It's like cooking, animation, computer stuff. There's a class on leadership and how to prepare for like a senior level executives meeting, and that's the one that I've chosen to take because I have no idea how to do that, but it's good that the people of Skillshare have me there so I can finish a senior level executive meeting. So definitely do that. Hit that link in the description. I'll get the kickback. You'll get a bunch of skills for free at first, and then a super reasonable price when you decide to re-up it. But yeah, that's kind of where I've been jamming on the blues for the last few weeks. So check that out. All right, so again, we're starting with this G 7, bringing it up to the second note in that key. And then ending it right there, okay? So the reason that it sounds like a fitting place to end is because you're always going to resolve on the 1 chord. And again, in the blues, and most other genres too, 1, 4, 5, G, C, D is, you know, a very common chord progression that's always going to lead you back to 1. That 5 chord leads you back to a 1 chord. In the key of G, G, A, B, C, D, D is the 5 chord. So when we do this little lick, what's the lowest note that we have, right? So the 7th fret on that G string is the lowest note of the lick, which is a D note. So we're getting that 5 chord, 6, 7, 8. So we're traveling from the 5 to the 1 and ending it with that 1 chord, which again is a really underrated shape, this D major chord shape being used higher up the neck. And again, think of it as a movable shape, right? So there's G major, G sharp, A, B flat, B. And then the sooner that you start thinking about this as a movable shape, you're dragging along everything else that comes with it, right? That all those notes that come around it, right? So I think this is like a really great way to just maybe learn stuff throughout the fretboard and then just kind of have a good time because it's you know, it sounds fast. It's really just hammer-ons and pull-offs. Really sounds like you know what you're doing, but you really just watched one video and signed up for Skillshare. All right, so let's do this in a different key. Let's do it in the key of C, right? So again, we can move all the chords down here, or you can play them open. So the 1 chord in C, C major, I can play a C7 higher up the neck, and then my 1, 4, 5 would be here. But then when I get to that 5 chord, again, C, F, G, remember, 2 frets above, 2 frets after that root note is where I'm going to have that little lick, right? So now I'm on the 10th and the 12th fret, C. And again, this stands to reason anything in the key of C you can kind of navigate to. One thing that I really like to do is use arpeggios. And again, this isn't just blues. It's really any kind of piece of music that is ending on that 1 chord. So maybe I'll make it a major 7 chord to kind of rid ourselves of this blues tag. And if you watched my videos before, you know that I really like this kind of like fretboard spanning lick that is really kind of the same thing, but we have the root note where we start the chord, and again this is C major 7, 3A, 5D, 4G, 5B. So the lick is going to go as an arpeggio would, like this, 3, 5, 7, 5D, and then down a string and just repeat it. Okay? And when you do that, you actually end up in line with where the root note would be on the E string, right? Which we talked about for that. So, if you think about it, all right, so here's my C major 7, and I just want to like, I kind of just got myself into this zone. Anything in this zone is fair game to kind of end the phrase that we're doing, right? So the great thing about that is this arpeggio leads you right into that spot, okay? And that's kind of what like a lot of like cool lead playing stuff is. That's how I learned actually, is just by combining different ideas. Maybe this idea is just this fretboard spanning arpeggio, and that brings me into something else that I know in this area. So I'm starting with the root note, I'm tracking it along through just kind of like a very linear arpeggio path, and then getting into a spot that I'm really comfortable with, right? And again, the great thing is like a lot of lead playing and stuff usually ends up on the higher strings. And it doesn't have to be in that order. Anything that that you want to do can come from those notes. But I think that's like a really cool... It's just a cool lick that sounds good, you know what I mean? It's really not that hard to do. So definitely practice that. Let's go back to the one in G, right? Because you kind of get the best of both worlds with practice, because anywhere in like the kind of middle right here, I feel like it's great to work on that stretch, whether it's your pointer finger and your ring finger, your pointer finger and your pinky, pointer finger and your middle finger. However you want to do it, there's a lot of different ways and just a lot of different options that you have as far as your practice goes, right? So that's just one lick that is a great way to end a song. But then when you combine them with other arpeggios and other licks and stuff like that, is where you really just start to like, all right, I got this nailed down. The highest 3 strings right here, I know in the key of C. That's something I can always do to kind of get me there. Maybe I want to do like something more bluesy. You know, that's more of like A minor pentatonic, which is going to lead you to kind of like the same spot. And just like, you know, it's always good to have different options. So I don't want to start jumping all over the place, because I did want to just really specifically do that one lick, because it's something that I just picked up from one of the Skillshare classes, and I just thought it would be cool to share with you guys. So thank you for watching the video. Thank you to Skillshare for sponsoring the video. And like I said, do me a solid and sign up for the free trial on that one, because it benefits all parties involved, trust me. And thanks again. If you have any questions or comments, hit me in the comment section, Instagram, the website. I'll talk to you all soon. Thank you.